What up, sir? How are you? Welcome to our newest show, Build and Battle. All right, a little background on the show. We wanted to create a show that was a competition build show that didn't suck, that wasn't based around drama or weird personalities. Instead, it was just watching two teams go at it and try to build the best thing and do it in a way that's really relatable to you guys. And to do that, we set 3 simple rules to follow. First rule was that the show had to be affordable, right? And relatable. Next, we wanted to make it so that it wasn't contrived. You guys are here not to watch a bunch of grown men fight with each other over a 10mm socket. You're here to watch people actually build cars. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep it about the builds. And 3, the builds actually have to run.
So this isn't some TV show where they're going to take and build a car in a week and then hire a different company to fix every single mistake that they made during filming and everything they forgot to do.
Yeah, they're actually going to have to take the car from the last minute of build when they get the car running and then immediately go into competition and prove whether or not these things work or not. All right, so this is season 1 of 4, and each season we're gonna focus on a different discipline in motorsports. To start, we're gonna do off-road racing.
For the first season, our focus is on off-road builds. So we've brought out 2 of the biggest senders that we could find in the space. Michael Cox. Oh my God! And Blake Wilkie. All right, so first up, we got Blake over here with the Jeep. So Blake, tell us, what is this? Why'd you buy it? Walk us through it.
This here is a 92 Jeep Cherokee Extra. Freaking off-road machine that your grandpa. 91? Oh yeah, it's a 91. These things are legendary, man, and super easy to build. 2-door, 5-speed, 4.0, inline 6. I bought this for $2,000 and then it broke down on me within 10 minutes. She has her flaws, but don't let that fool you. She still barks. Fender, those things, door panel, seats, a little bit of rust, the battery. Old, that thing will fly out real quick. She's leaking coolant. Look on the ground, dude. Like, look under there. Rev limiter. When I pulled her into the garage, you know, she banged limiter for at least 10 seconds to make sure she's awake and she's ready to party. She's gonna be ready come race day.
Okay, so our second fabricator here, many of you may know him from his mega send in the yard. We got Mr. Michael Cox.
What's going on, Zach?
What's up, dude?
This is a 1992 Ford Explorer. Not very pretty, but it's got it where it counts. It's got a 4-liter and a 5-speed manual transmission. It's 4x4, V6.
Okay.
Yeah. We bought this truck at a junkyard. It's got some old shocks, Cooser shocks that were made in Long Beach, right here in Long Beach about 30 years ago. It has 4-wheel drive I-beams.
Okay. What else we got going on here?
Oh, you open it up and I haven't even gone through the whole in here.
Okay, what is this? Because you got some 3.0s sticking through the floorboards there.
It's a $500 truck with $2,000 worth of shocks on it.
Each of these builds is going to be judged on 4 different criteria. Then we'll be judging budget ingenuity to see how well these guys spent their 10K, if they're buying all new parts, or if they're actually doing some haggling on Craigslist and making it last. Dan will be coming in to judge build quality, making sure that they're not cutting any corners, making sure the welds look good, and that one of their vehicles isn't going to explode on impact. I'll be judging the exhaust category, making sure that these boys are breaking all decibel levels in the state of California. And lastly, Hurt is going to be judging overall aesthetics to make sure these builds are living up to a Hoonigan standard of style. At the end of the build, the teams will compete in 3 separate challenges. The team with the highest points total at the end wins. All right, so you've met our builders. Each of our builders have brought a mechanic with them to assist them in the build. First of all, Blake, who have you brought?
This is my man. He is a longtime friend of mine, fabricator. We've built a lot of things together and thrashed a lot of things together. So us paired up against these boys, I think we got a good competition going.
We're screwed.
Wow.
Because we got Vince. This guy right here, we prepped trophy trucks together and raced a bunch of shit. Been good friends for a long time, and he's the best mechanic I've ever met.
So Blake,
Yes, sir.
what's the first thing you guys are taking care of?
First thing, I don't know exactly. We're thinking bumpers, wheels, tires, front end, rear end, everything needs to come off. Right now it's just a straight strip mode. Once we get everything stripped, and we'll start figuring out where we're at with all parts that we already have kind of acquired or are going to have in our possession really soon. And everything has to be methodically kind of laced out with the time we're given. So that'll play a big role.
What's up? What you doing?
Starting off, first stripping down the interior, getting the seats out, all the seat belts, car. We're gonna end up putting PRP seats in it and PRP harnesses for safety. So first we're gonna strip all this shit out, get ready to build the cage, and put some new seats in it.
Michael Cox,
Yo, what up?
what's the first thing you guys are taking care of over here?
Well, Vince is going to diagnose some of the misfire that the engine has. It's not hitting on all 6 cylinders. And I'm going to start taking apart the front suspension to have a look at what's going on here. That one's missing a lug nut.
I'm gonna start diagnosing why it started misfiring all of a sudden. It wasn't misfiring yesterday, but misfiring today. We want to get the axles out by the end of this week to get to a guy that's gonna rebuild the gears for us. I think Mike got a spool for the rear and maybe put a locker in the front. We'll go from there.
Hell yeah. Right on, man. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool, yeah, so the most important parts to me would be shocks, gears,
Safety third.
Suspension is huge. Trying to go off-road into a stock vehicle, you'll find out real quick that the bumps appear much larger than they may assume to be.
You know, shocks are the most important part of an off-road car. That's what keeps you in control with the ground. So as soon as your wheels leave the ground, you technically aren't in control. So keeping the wheels on the ground is very important, and with proper shocks, it'll let that wheel move at the right speed.
Second is, definitely safety, man. Safety never takes a vacation. Stock seatbelts are no joke when you're, cartwheeling a vehicle. So harnesses are huge, even with stock seats. The harnesses hold you in. I've been upside down numerous of times with seatbelts versus harnesses, and harnesses, you're just like, no big deal.
The gears are important because once you put off-road tires on your truck, they're big and they're hard to turn. So you need a lower gear ratio so you can turn those big tires.
Big tires are important, man. Bigger's not always better, but a larger tire from what we have here to what we're going with will make the bumps seem smaller because it'll fill holes. So in certain circumstances, big tires for sure help, and they make you look cool too. Hell yeah.
Sick.
Alright, so just disconnected the drive shaft. We gotta upgrade it with a slipper yoke so we don't toast the transmission when we're off-roading. So we're gonna pull that out right now.
You got a bucket?
Yep. Good. Oh, look at that. Maybe there's no fluid in there. this will get recycled and built into a new drive shaft with a slip yoke in it.
So you're just gonna rebuild that exact drive shaft?
It'll basically be a similar length. After we get the rear suspension in and cycled up to see where we're at bump, we're gonna take measurements from the transmission and we'll determine how much plunge there is overall from bump to droop, and then our drive shafts will be built to that spec, basically, so there's no binding action when fully collapsed or it doesn't pull out when fully extended.
Cool.
So right now, I got the springs off the front coilover shock. Now we're gonna measure what kind of travel we have and make sure that the front end's not doing anything wonky. By wonky, I mean like weird camber gains or caster gains, or maybe the tie rods might hit each other or hit something on the front. So we're gonna just kind of check clearances and see what we're working with. I'm gonna write this number down, 12.375. The old upsy daisy. Careful vents in case this thing falls off that. So I don't know if you can see it, the wheel's starting to toe out as the suspension travels up. That's bad. But there are worse things. So this is exactly what you're looking for. If you take the steering out of consideration, as far as like shock placement and your clearance you have from the top of the beam to the bottom of the frame without getting too wild and notching all that stuff out, this is pretty much ideal. So the other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put a set of hydraulic bump stops in here. As long as I can fit it in the budget, which it's looking like I can right now. And then when that's done, the hydraulic bump stop will be completely bottomed and there will be about this much shock shaft left. What you do with that is if the shock shaft is completely bottomed before the bump stop bottoms, you end up loading up the shock towers, and that's how they end up getting ripped off the frame. So you want to spread that load. So with the hydraulic bump stop, we'll be able to spread that load into the chassis and off the shock towers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we're almost there. It's actually looks a lot better than I assumed it would.
I'm gonna go right now to the junkyard and find a used 8.8 rear end, because the stock one that we have is not gonna handle what we wanna do to it. So I'm gonna go grab that while these guys do their thing here with the camera. I'm getting busy with it. All right, so we are here. Used truck parts. Yeah. Troy?
Morning.
What's up, dude? I heard you got an 8.8 for me.
I got it.
Let's do this. You guys got a bunch of goods up in here. Let's see where this 8.8's at, man. I'm following you, bro.
We got here's one right here. This is a 308. Here's another one. Here's a 355.
So we got options. I'm gonna gear with 488s. So the gearing doesn't really matter. I guess I'm just looking for the best quality.
Sometimes the 308s have offset carriers on them.
See.
So I'd probably pick a 355.
Dude, I don't even need to get brake pads or nothing. This is what's up. We're gonna load this thing up and get back to the garage and slap her in. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
One thing about cutting these wires, especially since we're working near fuel, I don't know if somebody has the key on or the batteries connected, so I'm cutting through one at a time. But with all these fumes here, it might cause a fire. You don't want that.
This is a fuel tank from a Ford Focus, I believe, which is a returnless style setup. So we got this fitting that will basically drill a hole in the tank, bolt that guy in there, and this will be our return from the fuel regulator. So this is a variable voltage fuel pump, which is different from the factory fuel pump. The factory fuel pump runs straight 12 volt. This one, how it came from the car, the voltage changes from the ECU based on throttle input and a couple other things that are above my pay grade. So we're gonna hotwire this fuel pump so it just gets straight 12 volt all the time. And this fuel pump should be good for about 230 horsepower, which I don't think we'll make that, but we're gonna need the extra fuel.
Okay. Yeah, baby.
This is a 4.5-inch grinder. This is like bread and butter in fabrication. We use these things for everything from notching tube to cutting off brackets, cleaning up surfaces, pretty much everything. So
if you're gonna fabricate, this needs to be your #1 tool. I own more than one, and I keep them with either the sanding disc on it or the cutoff wheels. So I'll have one with a cutoff wheel ready to go and one with a grinding wheel ready to go.
So one thing when you're grinding on rounded tube, you always want to go with it. So you want to go with the tube. If you go side to side, you put flat spots in the material. So that's a good trick to know, to where you don't look like you got a tube that has a bunch of flat spots on it, because that'll make you look like a beginner.
what we got here is the front truss kit from Artec Industries for the Dana 30 front axle on the Jeep XJ. It's all laser cut, bent, pretty much just goes together like Legos. Put these pieces in here, and she's ready to weld up.
Yeah, you can see that there's a big tube here that pretty much supports all the weight of the vehicle. So you have your spring perches here. So if you were to bottom out and your tires want to continue to go up, your axle is going to want to flex. You can see how long this tube is versus that side. So what this is doing is this is adding structure and strength to the entire axle housing so it doesn't flex and bend. Because when things flex and bend, you break axles and or you create drag. I bent some axles before. My Suzuki Samurai, cool, that thing looked like a smiley face. So, and it didn't have one of these. So this is going to help eliminate that problem.
What's up, Vince?
So, I'd like to show you this. This here is a gas tank out of a Focus. Since it's not meant for it, I gotta figure out which wires are for the fuel pump. What I'm gonna do is I'm looking in here and I'm seeing the fuel pump. I'm looking at the wires coming out of it. I'm pretty sure it's these two wires. What I'll do, cut them, strip them. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna energize it by grounding it and adding power. And you could hear the fuel pump run. So I know that these two wires are for the fuel pump, and I'm gonna end up wiring them to the existing wiring for the original fuel pump.
What's up, guys? Giving you guys a little update right now. The front end is completely gone. Boom. I'm working on taking the exhaust header off right now. Kevin got the front axle cleaned up and is working on that truss to strengthen that front axle. What else we got, Kevin? What's another update?
Well, I'm about to cut off these front suspension pivots since we're putting the long arm kit on, which actually moves the pivot all the way back to the transmission cross member. So we got to cut these pivots off for the new arms to clear.
And not only that, we also got the carpet out. We'll move back, but right now when we start welding and cutting and grinding, we don't want to catch on fire. So we got that out of there, but we're about to keep getting busy with it because time is limited.
Prematurely gonna fail and you're gonna break everything.
Just hoping any of the front wheels turn. We're on the King shocks right now. We're gonna pick up some shocks from their scratch, dent, and ding pile.
You have $800 left?
What'd you do?
We're gonna have to sell some more shit.
That's what we need though. We're gonna try and keep up with Michael Cox, the flying Hawaiian.
If you had to guess, would you say this thing's been jumped before?
Oh yeah, I jumped in when I test drove it, dude. I bottomed it out like 19 times, did like 47 donuts, and the dude was like, "Never had a test drive like that before." And I'm like, "Yeehaw, partner, we'll take it."